All right? Letting go. This is some of the hardest work you will ever have to do in your life, is to let go, to unhook, to detach from your codependent, dysfunctional relationships. You are never going to change somebody else's life like you think. By nagging them, by fixing them, by continuing to work with them. The only way anybody changes their life is by giving their own problem and letting them work on it. When I told my son, I can't help you anymore, you've won, I'm beat. It's your problem. That's when our relationship began to change, and he began to feel responsibility for his own life. There's one good story on codependency. Here you are, this is the case. You have to go down the hill, across the bridge, and into the next village. There's some very important business you got to do. People's lives are depending on you. And you're coming down the street, and here's somebody coming along the bridge here. And you kind of meet halfway on the bridge. And he said, would you hold this a minute? And he hands you the end of a rope. You said, yeah, what's this for? Well, would you do me a favor? Will you hold this a minute? Yeah. And he jumps off the edge of the bridge. It's about a 400-foot drop down into a little stream that you know there's not enough water there to do any good at all. And as you see him go over the edge, you can't believe it, but somehow you hang on, and when he hits the bottom, you hang on and you got it. And then you look over the edge, and there's no place to tie this thing. It's all concrete, straight away. And it's just barely, you can barely hold on. And he's hanging there swinging. And he says, don't let go. Don't let go. Because if you let go, I'll be killed. And it'll be your fault. And are you ticked? A couple hours goes by. People walk by and they won't help you. They got more sense. And you're really getting mad. But you got to hang on, right? If you let go, what's going to happen? Do you see how this is a codependent relationship? This is your codependent relationship. The rope is your codependency. And that guy dangling down there is your kid, or your alcoholic husband, or your raging husband, or your workaholic husband, or whatever it is. And you're hanging on, trying to keep things together. And if you let go, what's sure going to happen? Who's responsible for what they do? Now, what's the answer? Do you let go or do you hang on? You let go slowly? You let go slowly. Well, I would be sticking my head over, saying some very uncomplimentary things, that you got so much to get your doof climbing up the rope. And then I'm letting go. I'm starting to count right now. Your life is in your hands. But when it comes right down to it and they can't get up, what would I do? I'm still stuck with it, right? Well, it's kind of like this. This is a fantasy. And you're going to have an amazing thing happen. You can't spend the rest of your life there. You cannot, because there's other people that are going to die if you don't get on the other side. And so when you let go, you wake up from your dream, and you will realize that your codependency was a fantasy that you could control, because you cannot control. And when you let go, other people survive. And they've been manipulating you and taking advantage of you and hurting you all this time. And when you let go, you wake up. You hang on and you hang on. It's going to wreck them and it's going to wreck you too. Because it's an unnatural and it's a dysfunctional relationship. Your children have to learn to get along on their own. And you've got to stop rescuing. There's got to be boundaries. You've got to get away from these fused relationships. And have the child understand what their boundaries are. And their right to their self-determination. And stop overshadowing. And stop telling them everything to do. And you need to ask, what do you think? How do you feel? So the child, instead of saying, Mom, what do we believe? Mom, are we happy? Mom, are we frightened? They'll say, this is what I think. And you ask them, how do you feel? What do you believe? What do you think? Ah, that's good. Well, what do you think, Mom? Well, I think this. Well, that's not the same as I think. Are you right then? Well, I don't know. I've thought about it, and this is what I think, and this is what I believe. You're going to have to decide that. But if you're pounding on them and trying to get them to do what you say, and think what you think, and believe what you feel, and feel what you feel, you're going to develop some sick people. Okay, we talked about boundaries. Differentiation, then, is the process of becoming unfused, of knowing who you are, of feeling who you are. Is this important to know when you're doing your children, people? This is so critical. Because what we do is we injure them without realizing. Now, a lot of times, the system will produce a child that gets all the heat. And mom and dad are having marital problems, they can have an affair, or they can beat each other up, or they can go to a surrogate spouse, or they can find a child to vent on. And often that child becomes the venting place for mom and dad who aren't getting along in their marriage. And some kids will volunteer to be the scapegoat, unknowingly, just to keep the marriage together. Do you have a scapegoat in your family? Be very, very aware of what you're doing. And they will volunteer, and they'll do all the stupid stuff. They're volunteering for the role. Maybe some of the good roles are taken. Scapegoat tends to sacrifice himself for the sake of the family and for the sake of the marriage. And it really, truly happens. We learn our roles by our sibling positions. We learn our roles. And these guys say that there's nothing so determining as your sibling position in your family. The oldest child learned their roles there. The youngest child, they learn to be pleasers. They learn to be rebels. They learn to be the good student, the good kid, the shy one. And then these roles that they learned in their families are repeated in their families that they create themselves in all their relationships. And these bonding relationships with mother in the early part determine the quality of the female-male relationship where the sons are concerned. All right, so we have our roles, we have our sibling positions. Comment.
From the time that we're young, we're taught to be unselfish and to try to please others and so forth. And I'm wondering just where we draw the line between meeting our own needs and trying to meet the needs, say, of our spouses.
Great question. You need to take care of yourself. We're all important. The children are not more important than the adults, and the adults are not more important than the children. And so it's a matter of balance and consideration and treating everyone equally in the sense of the needs that they have. You can't say that the parents have to accommodate their lives because children come into the world. The children are supposed to fit into the family, and the parents are not supposed to sacrifice the rest of their lives for their children. Parents have their own marriage and their own lives to live. The children need to fit into that. And to observe something else is unhealthy. It's just not as healthy. That creates a codependency. Sometimes it
seems like it's a shame to change your codependency if you're as good as I am.
Yes.
A lot of people will suffer.
Yes, but they will also grow. And you can go on with your life. That's the whole point. If you will let go of your codependent relationships and allow people to live their own lives, they will do just fine. That was that grandiose thing, to think that other people can't manage without you. Isn't that wonderful?